Hey.
What are we doing here?
What are you doing here?
Hey, everybody, it's Todd Bishop and Andrew Edwards. You're watching a behind-the-scenes recording of Geared Up, our
Yes, we are.
gadget consumer electronics show,
Yes.
video show, and podcast. Clearly, I'm out of practice.
Yes. Let's explain to people who may be the regular viewers wondering what the heck is Todd Bishop doing back in this chair.
Well, Starless and Paco is out, so I'm here.
So you're here. You're
Yes,
filling in.
Exactly.
We appreciate that.
So we have got, you wouldn't believe it, Andrew,
What do we got?
a lot to talk about
Yes,
today.
we do. Yes,
So
we do.
we're going to be talking about a lot of the interesting announcements coming out of Mobile World Congress, and specifically the foldable phones will be coming up later on.
Right.
The new Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus.
Yes, we got that here.
And frankly, my favorite new announcement out of Samsung, the Galaxy Buds.
I'm wondering why that's your favorite of everything. It'll be a good discussion.
This is one of my pet topics, the wireless Bluetooth-enabled earbuds. So
Okay.
looking forward to that conversation as well. So with that, we should, for people who are just tuning in for the first time, explain what we're doing here. We're recording a podcast, but it's a behind-the-scenes video live stream. So Andrew and I will have a conversation on the show, and then we'll take a break, and Andrew will answer your questions during the break.
Yes.
And if you're just tuning in for the first time, Andrew is the editor and sole proprietor, editor-in-chief of Gear Live.
Thank you.
Longtime technology reviewer, and he was actually at the Samsung
Yes, I
unveiling.
was. Yes, I was. I've got some thoughts as well.
And I'm the editor and co-founder of GeekWire, the technology news site that you're watching. So that's it.
That's it. We're about to jump in. Again, it's a behind-the-scenes recording of the podcast. As people are in the chat asking questions, if you see someone in there getting mad that we're not addressing their questions, I like to say this every time.
I know.
People will get mad that we're not answering their questions. Just let them know if you're in the chat, hey, they answer questions during the break. They can't stop every 3 seconds to answer everybody's questions.
Yeah.
So, with that said,
Let's jump in.
we're jumping in.
All right. Welcome to Geared Up, brought to you by National Car Rental. I'm Todd Bishop.
I'm Andrew Edwards
Starless and Paco is off this week, but it's great to be back here with you, Andrew.
in the hot seat.
That's right here in the driver's seat, I
That's
like
right.
to say.
Oh, yeah. Passenger.
No, not at all. Come on, people who listen to this show know that's not the case. Coming up, we are going to be talking about all of the announcements of the new smartphones, including the new foldable phones,
Yes.
which, Andrew, I am highly skeptical of, and I'm going to leave it to you to convince me that these phones that fold are really even worth my time and attention.
Wow, that's a big task.
Let alone my money.
Right, a lot of money.
Microsoft has a new HoloLens, and Samsung just came out with the new Galaxy Buds, which we've got here on the table, in addition to the
You're
S10.
more excited about the buzz of the actual device.
Who cares about phones?
We do have
these
an
days?
S10 Plus here in-house as well. I've been using it for about 6 days now. I can give some impressions on as well.
So, Andrew, I got to say before we jump in,
Yeah.
I just had a really fascinating tech experience. I went to Walt Disney World for the first time.
Nice.
And I was fascinated by a number of things there, but
Okay.
among them the magic bands, the wristbands that you wear that give you access to basically everything,
Yeah.
from your hotel room to the fast pass lines at the rides,
Buying food.
everything.
Yeah.
But the thing that I was most struck by was the fingerprint readers that you use when you go into the park. And
Yeah.
I realize this is not new at Walt Disney World. They shifted to this a while back. But for me, it was fascinating. I walked up there and I was a little unsettled by the idea. I did not actually know that was going to be
Yeah.
part of the
Entry.
price of admission,
Okay.
basically, was your digital identity. And so I said to them, do I have to do this? Do I have to do this? And the look that I got, it was
They
like,
were annoyed. Oh,
it
this
was
is
like,
another one of these
yeah,
guys.
oh no, you're one of them. Okay. And so and they just said, yes.
That's it.
That's it.
Yes, you do.
Yes.
If
And
you want to come into our park, give us your fingerprint.
Do you feel comfortable with Disney having?
Well, I never thought about it. Like, I've been there and I've done my finger, but I just did it without even thinking. Like, okay, do this. All right, put your finger there. Okay, come on in. I never thought about it until you mentioned it before we started the show today. Like, wait a minute, that is kind of weird. Like, because sometimes they also get a picture of you. So you get a picture of you on their phones, and then they take your fingerprints. Now they have your name, they have your address, they have your face, they have your finger. Like, this is crazy.
I was reading on the plane ride home all of these conspiracy theories about the CIA and Walt Disney, which tied everything together for me.
Wow. Wow.
At any rate, that's a whole other show.
That's crazy.
So you've been busy as well.
Yes.
You were at the Samsung unveiling.
Yeah, Samsung Unpacked a few days ago. I went down to San Francisco for I never know if is it the launch or is it an announcement? Is launch like the launch day when it comes out? Because some people say, oh, it's at the launch.
I like to say unveiling.
The unveiling. All
Yes.
right. I was down there for the unveiling of the new Samsung Galaxy Fold, the Galaxy S10 lineup, Galaxy Buds, as you saw as well. We'll be talking about all that later. I thought it was very interesting. It was the first time that I walked out of any unveiling feeling that Apple is playing catch up to someone else.
Okay, so that takes us right into our first topic, which is the S10 Plus.
The S10 Plus.
So tell us about this phone. We've got it right here.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and hold
So
that
there's a
there.
lot about this phone. We're not going to be able to go into every single thing about this. This isn't a full review, but there's a couple of cool features. First of all, the in-display fingerprint reader. So you don't see a home button on here.
Should just hold it still.
But there is an in-display fingerprint reader on the front. And you can even use it when the phone is off. Not powered off, but when the screen is off. You just place your finger in the right place and you open up right to your homepage. This has been one of those kind of holy grail kind of things that people have been talking about ever since we've been seeing things like Face ID go away, Touch ID go away. And so people have been saying if we're losing bezels, that means we're losing the area to where we can use a fingerprint reader. People have been wanting in-display fingerprint readers for a while now, and this is the first ultrasonic fingerprint sensor, which means that it's taking a 3D capture of your fingerprint. So other in-display fingerprint readers currently just kind of take a 2D picture, so it's not as secure. Samsung is the first one to build in it's capturing 3D model of your fingerprint and letting you into your phone, which means it's very secure. So that's number one. Really cool to see that. Again, minimal bezels, and you can still use your fingerprint. You don't have to do the whole, the Face ID. Oh, it didn't work. I got to move it back, move it forward. Because some people say they still have issues with Face ID. I personally don't feel that it's a big deal. I actually have found, now this device is not coming out until March 8th, so that means they'll probably do a couple of software updates between now and then. I have found the fingerprint reader to be a little finicky. At least knowing where to put the finger. I'm assuming that's what it is because there's no indication. You just have to kind of have muscle memory to know where your finger goes. But other than that, it's cool to see in-display fingerprint reader that doesn't mess with your viewing of the display at all. Second feature that I think is super cool. This might be my favorite feature. Have you seen Wireless PowerShare? Do you know about this?
Let's hear it.
All right, Wireless PowerShare. Let me go back into the phone. This phone is wirelessly chargeable, so you can put it on a wirelessly charger, but this phone is also a wireless charger for other devices. So if I swipe down into my settings and I turn on Wireless PowerShare, make sure I did that. Did I do it right? I didn't see it turn on. Wireless PowerShare. All right, Wireless PowerShare is on. If I place this down here and I put something that's wirelessly chargeable, for example, my iPhone XS Max with the battery case, if I put that on there, it's charging.
You are charging an iPhone with a Galaxy.
Correct. You
That
can
is
charge
crazy.
any Qi-compatible device.
Okay, that was going to be my question. What
Any
is the standard?
Qi-compatible
Is
device.
Qi now basically the de facto standard?
Yes, ever since Apple announced Qi compatibility, it's like everyone's gone down that direction. Now, there is a Huawei phone that also does wireless charging, but it's like limited. It's not just for any Qi device. So these Galaxy Buds that we're going to talk a little bit more about, you can take these. No, they're not in there.
What happened, Andrew? Did you leave them at
I
home?
took them out of the box. They're not in there. They're not in there. However, you can put those on here too, and those will also
Where are
wirelessly
they?
charge. They're at home. They're at home. They're not in here. So
You can see on the box, though, what they look like. Well, that ruins my plan to test them.
my apologies. We can still talk about them, but we can't test them. But it's cool that you're able to use a phone as a wireless charger. So the one caveat here, it's a safety feature really, it can wirelessly charge until the battery drops to 30%. Once it hits 30%, it turns off that feature because it doesn't want you to kill this phone trying to charge something else.
So those are two things that
Two
have
big
not
features.
been on other smartphones. I mean, that is
Correct.
basically something that's brand new.
Yeah, brand new.
What else? I mean, because really the issue with smartphones now is it's kind of like ho hum.
Triple camera.
Triple camera.
Triple
There it is
camera.
on the back.
Triple camera on back, double camera on front. So
Huh.
you've got 2 cameras there, and instead of doing a notch, they just do a little cutout.
Oh yeah,
It's a little display cutout.
So what's the advantage of 3 in the back, 2 in the front?
So 3 in the back, let me show you right now. I'm going to open the camera, and let's say we're pointing it here at our viewers. Let me just go into regular photo. So you can see there's a regular photo there.
Mm-hmm.
I can go a little bit wider, and then I can go with the ultra wide, like your actual 130, I think it's 133-degree field of view, which is similar to the field of view of your actual eyes. So you have 3 different, zoom levels for your camera, and then 2 cameras on the front is to make things like portrait mode better, or if you have more people in a selfie, you have an ultra wide now, so you can fit everybody in without having to like grow. I don't have long arms. I'm not a tall guy, so when I have a lot of people in a selfie, I have to usually hand my phone to someone else to have them take the picture. So now you can just go into ultra wide mode on front, fit everybody in.
There are some people who would say that's actually a benefit because then you're not taking as many selfies.
We all love taking selfies.
Group
It's the selfie generation right now, and Samsung recognizes that with the S10.
Interesting. Okay. So this is in some ways an example of what you were saying, where they're jumping out ahead of Apple and you feel like Apple is somewhat playing catch up?
Yeah, well, so obviously each company has different priorities. Samsung has the S10e, which starts at $749, which matches the iPhone XR at $749. However, Samsung's base storage, the lowest storage you can get now is 128 gigs. Apple still starts at 64. So for the same price, you're getting twice the storage. The Galaxy S10e also has 2 rear cameras instead of 3 rear cameras, but it's still 1 more camera than a XR has. So Samsung is really trying, and it has an OLED display, a high-resolution OLED display, where the XR has the LCD lower-resolution display. Apple has the fastest processor in the world, though. Samsung can't touch the speed of Apple's phones right now. So it's like where do the priorities lie for what I would consider to be like the mainstream features that the average person would look at and say, oh, wow, Samsung, I think, has more of that right now. Because most people aren't looking at the iPhone saying, oh, wow, the A12 chip.
Right.
Who knows what an A12 chip is, right? Unless you're like into technology or you're like a geeky person. Most people say, oh, wow, this has 2 cameras and that one has 1 camera.
Yep.
This has 128 gigs of storage. This one has 64.
Holy cow, look what I can do. I can charge another device.
I can charge another
this.
device with my phone. So that's not exactly where I felt Samsung was taking the lead, although I think they are a little bit. We're going to talk later about the foldable devices, and that's where I really feel like when you walk out, you're like, even if this isn't great, someone is taking the first step here, and it's Samsung.
Interesting.
So we'll talk about that in our next segment. But yeah, so far I've been using the S10 for about 6 days, as I said, and it's very nice.
So this is not yet out. It will
That
be
comes out on
released
March 8th.
March 8th. Okay. And approximate pricing?
So the S10e starts at $749. The S10 is $899, and the S10 Plus, which is this one here, is $999. And then they also have the S10 5G coming, which they did not announce a price for. They said it's coming in the first half of this year. So sometime between now and let's say June 30th, because that would be the cutoff, right, for the first half of the year, we'll be seeing a Verizon exclusive version of the S10 5G, which has a 6.7-inch display, 4 cameras, one of which is a 3D depth sensing camera for things like AR, 5G capability, and then sometime this is their timeline. I'm not sure if I'm believing that it's going to happen. Sometime still before the end of the first half, we'll see the 5G launch on the other carriers in the U.S. So AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, and Xfinity Wireless. When you buy the phone, will you have 5G around you to connect to? That's another story. So they had to add more features to the phone to make it a more premium phone rather than just the 5G connection. So that's why it has the extra camera, the bigger screen, etc.
And then, of course, after that comes 6G. I don't know if you've been listening.
Donald Trump is hoping, hey, we need to hurry up with 6G. Now, here's the thing. For people that don't know, like when you graduate to a new G, if you will, a new generation of wireless, it usually takes a decade. So 4G was about 10 years ago. 3G was about 10 years before that. So 6G is probably something we're going to see around 2029 or 2030. Trump would like to see us fast forward that to 2020.
Hey, it's going to happen.
Can we do it?
Yes. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the buds.
Talk about the Galaxy
Buds. So, I am a big fan of the AirPods.
Yes.
How do these compare to the AirPods?
In my own opinion, they compare almost the same. You put them in. They have a very similar initial pairing process where the little card comes up on your device and says, do you want to connect to this? You say yes. The difference is mostly visual, where the AirPods have like the little stem that comes out of your ear, and the Galaxy Buds are more of like, it goes in your ear, but it's just like it doesn't hang out. It just goes in your ear and stays there.
Little lower profile, more discreet. It's not obvious that you're walking around,
well,
as I've said,
they're
with
bulkier though. Like they cover the whole ear hole.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's a bulkier. So both of them you can see. I don't know why you're so against people knowing you're wearing AirPods. That's very weird to me.
I know.
Like, you don't have a problem with people seeing you wearing regular headphones, I assume.
No, because those come with the device.
So it's not the look. It's about the fact that you purchased something
for
extra.
$160.
Okay.
No,
okay.
Speaking of price, though, the Buds are actually less, correct?
Yes, they are.
In the range of 130.
120. Yeah, I think they're 120, 129.
Yeah.
Yes. And something that Apple doesn't do also, which Samsung is doing, during the pre-order period, which is active right now, if you pre-order a Galaxy S10 or S10 Plus, you get these for free.
Whoa. Okay.
They just come with it.
That's nice.
Like, can you imagine Apple saying pre-orders go live on Friday, and if you pre-order before launch, you get free AirPods?
So that takes care of all my problem, because people might assume they'll be savvy enough to see the Buds in my ears and say,
he got them.
Pay for those.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, my friend Jeremy Judkins had a cool idea. I don't know if I told you about this one, where if you're wearing AirPods, you just take another pair of headphones and put them over the top.
You did tell me about this, and I think it's stupid.
What was funny is, though, he's like these Sennheisers cost twice as much as the AirPods, but no one knows that. So you put those on, and people don't think you're rich as you're walking around.
Yeah.
Or Shout out to Jeremy.
Or wasteful. It's more waste.
Why is it wasteful?
Not affluent.
That means anything's wasteful then. Why do you have a mouse with your computer when there's a trackpad there? That's wasteful.
That's a whole other issue.
Because trackpads on Windows machines are terrible.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Basically.
That's one reason. All right, so that is the new Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus.
Yes.
And the new Samsung Galaxy Buds. Right. The Buds, are they available now?
They launched the same day, which is March 8th.
Very cool. Coming up, we're going to be talking about something that's even further out in terms of the technology, and that is the Samsung Fold.
Galaxy Fold.
Yes.
Yes.
That's coming up right after the break. You're listening to Geared Up.
You killed to get your hands on that. Samsung handed this to me. Here you go. Here's your review unit. Like, you might be new here, but I review gadgets and work with companies to to show off their devices. Okay, let's see. A lot of people are wondering if we have a Galaxy Fold that we're like in hand that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, right. They're with the Buds. They're with the Buds.
We do not have a Galaxy Fold here. Apple is crap. Okay. Someone would rather have a OnePlus. OnePlus is great. Nothing wrong with OnePlus, but there is new features that we're seeing here that even OnePlus is not doing. What were you going to say?
Oh, no, go ahead.
All right. Selfies equal too much vanity. Is that your problem with selfies? Is that your problem?
I don't know what my problem is. Yeah, maybe vain. Maybe it's my own looks.
Andrew Edwards is the king of tech. I appreciate that. Galaxy Fold seems like a real product, and Mate 10 seems more like a beta project. Could be. Interesting. That's pretty much it. Galaxy Fold is still the most polished foldable phone when compared. You can't judge based on what the companies themselves show you. You can't judge. They're going to make it look in the absolute best that they can. That's it.
All right.
You can move on to the next segment.
Cool. Okay, so this is the National Car Rental one.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. There we go. All right. Ready?
Yes.
Welcome back to Geared Up. It's time for the National Car Rental Story of the Week. It's Todd Bishop here with Andrew Edwards. People, if they haven't already checked this out, should check out Andrew's other show, Technically Speaking.
Yes, Technically Speaking
is
the show where I talk about the best tech for people who are traveling. So if you're a business traveler, the show is definitely for you because you're traveling all the time. But even if you're just traveling for vacation or leisure, like Todd was doing, heading down to Disney World, Technically Speaking has your answer. I tell you all the tech you need to bring with you for fun, for leisure, and to make travel more efficient.
Very cool. What any kind of latest products that you've been talking about there that you want to?
Actually, one of the latest ones was it's a water bottle that it purifies your water using some sort of ultraviolet light as you're walking around and reminds you to drink. Because
Nice.
a lot of times when you're like on like a vacation,
Sure.
you're running around and you're like not staying hydrated. So it's a water bottle that uses tech to send you a notification to remind you, hey, you haven't been hydrating for a while, so make sure to take a sip of water.
Nice. So you can
Yeah.
check that out on Technically Speaking. Find that at the nationalcar.com control center or youtube.com/nationalcarrent. Big thanks to National Car Rental for sponsoring Geared Up. And the National Car Rental story of the week is...
We are talking about the Samsung Galaxy Fold. Galaxy Fold. Foldable phones. Foldable phones are here. They're here.
This was
It's crazy.
merely just sort of a figment of our imagination a few weeks ago, or a
Right.
few months ago, when this was first discussed.
Right.
And there they were being unveiled.
And I was shocked.
So-
Genuinely shocked.
So this was in Barcelona, Spain, at Mobile World Congress.
No, the Galaxy Fold was announced at the same event as
It
the
was.
S10.
It was. So
at
you got to
Unpacked.
see it in person. You didn't get to get your hands on it.
We got to see it from the stage.
Okay.
They didn't even have it in a hands-on area. They didn't have it behind glass. It was not there for like to see up close, but it is at Mobile World Congress to see up close behind
it.
glass.
So explain this device. And there's another one, too, that we're going to talk about.
The
from
Huawei Mate 10.
Yeah. So for people who have
Mate
not
10,
seen
Mate
this,
X, one of the two.
trying to wrap their heads around it, what would you say is the main appeal?
Well, it's hard to say what the appeal is right now because other than it being a new device category, it's a display that can bend and fold, which we really haven't seen ever. Usually if you bend a display, it breaks. So these new displays can be folded and manipulated without damage to the displays at all. The allure is supposed to be that you can basically carry around a tablet in your pocket.
In other words, it is sort of like a candy bar phone in its folded up state, and it's on the exterior of that version of it. It's essentially a phone.
Right.
And then you open it up.
Depending on which manufacturer, Samsung has theirs to where on the outside, if it's folded, you have a thin display, and on the back of the fold, you have the camera, like the back of any other smartphone. And then you open it up, and on the inside is a second display, which is, I believe it was 7.9 inches, somewhere around there. If you look at Huawei's Mate X, what they're doing is the fold, instead of folding inward like a book, it folds outward. So the full display folds in half, and then on the outside you have kind of two displays
That are essentially the same displays, just
correct
folded.
Yes. So it's new, it's different, it allows people to have a bigger form factor device that's easier to carry around. What I'm not sure of is, are either of these devices something that people are going to want to carry around? Because first of all, they both run Android, which is the only reason I say that is because Samsung's making a hardware with someone else's software. So Samsung has to rely on Google to allow the software to kind of bend to their will. And if Google's not, as caught up or on board with here's a new form factor and here's this new folding mechanism, then they're using software that's not optimized for the hardware. Same thing with Huawei. Whereas with Apple, for example, who makes their own software, if Apple announced a foldable, you would know they were optimizing iOS specifically for a folding interface. So I'm not sure how that's going to go right now, or at least when this ships in 2 months. I expected to see this like next year. They're also very expensive. So the Samsung Galaxy Fold, $1,980 in the U.S. That's likely for the entry level model. There will be a 5G version. There'll be versions with more memory.
So $2,000 for a phone.
$2,000 for a phone. And just a year ago, Everybody was mad at Apple.
For $1,000.
$999.
Yes.
What is this? $999 for a phone? This
Bargain.
is crazy.
It's a bargain. That's what it is.
Now we've got $2,000 for a phone that I don't know if it will work as well as the phone you currently have in your pocket today, other than being able to do a cool trick. So is it a gimmick or is it actually adding something to your life? Now, when they did the demos and they showed, like, you're on the small screen outside, you're looking for an address, you open it up and the map is nice and big, or scrolling through like Instagram or Facebook where the pictures are nice and large and rich instead of on a smaller display, that's cool. But it's cool when you're watching someone do it on video. Is it cool in practice, or is it going to be frustrating? I don't know.
So what do we know about how close these devices are to market?
Samsung is launching the Galaxy Fold in April.
Okay.
So we're about 2 months away.
Yep.
Which again, it blows my mind. Like, regardless of whether it's a good device or not, I have to give Samsung credit for stepping out and saying, we made a foldable display, foldable OLED display. We're putting it in hardware. We're making the hardware as premium as we can, and we're shipping this in April.
That is impressive, especially from a company that has had some high-profile failures in the past. When you look at the Samsung Galaxy Note 7, am I remembering
for example,
the right number?
yes, that was the whole battery thing.
So obviously that's a completely different technology, but it's impressive that they're stepping back up and doing something that's bold and risky.
Right, and you can't really hate on them for the price. I know it's expensive. It's as much as a high-quality laptop. However, they're first to market. How many people out there have a foldable phone? I would say 0. So you're going to be one of the first to have a new product category. You can expect to pay. Like the first MacBook Air that came out was a terrible machine. It overheated. It got hot. But it was thin, right? And it lost all sorts of ports. And Apple shipped it, I believe it was like $3,000. It wasn't the MacBook Air that we have today, but it was because you're getting this ultra thin Mac. It was the first in the product category, and you have to pay for the privilege, basically, of getting access to this new technology. And so that's another thing where I felt like you walk out and you're like, how is Apple going to respond to this? Because great product or not, everyone's attention is on this right now. Everyone is looking at this and saying this is the future of smartphones.
To your point earlier about Apple, it seems like a lot of their innovation right now is focused under the hood. And one of the most recent reports that came out was that they're looking at shifting to ARM processors for the Mac, and that would make it easier for developers to build apps across devices, which has sort of been the holy grail for a long time. The idea that you make one app and it runs across smartphones, tablets, and computers. But to your point, that doesn't seem like the kind of thing that's going to drive some big new wave of sales.
Right. No.
Or interest. Whereas with the foldable phones, and to be clear, a lot of people have a foldable phone. They're flip phones.
A lot of people have those because I don't see those anywhere.
Well, okay. Well, I not in the circles you run in, but in the rest of the world, people have and I'm just saying it's a foldable screen. That's the real innovation.
Foldable display. Yes.
So, but to me, with the foldable display, that is truly a big move, and the type of thing that isn't just under the hood. It's something that's going to get a lot of attention.
Yeah, it's going to get a lot of attention. And it's, when you look at like science fiction, if you look at Westworld, you ever watch Westworld?
Yeah.
All right, you know how they have like the triple fold thing that they have the computer, it just folds. Like, we're approaching that. Now, obviously, this is Gen 1. It's going to be thicker. It's almost like back in the day when you had like the huge cell phone, right? This brick cell phone, and now we have this.
Yeah.
That's what we're seeing here. Like, obviously, the first gen of these foldables is going to be a little strange, but I think at least they're taking the first step. And going forward, Gen 2, Gen 3, I think it will be something that, people are going to be switching over to.
Now, the other of these devices is the Mate 10.
Mate 10, yeah.
From Huawei.
From Huawei.
Which is the telecom company and smartphone maker based in China.
Yes.
Which is at the center of a lot of issues.
It's crazy.
International intrigue between the U.S. and China, especially as we talk about the future of 5G. There are real questions about Huawei's role in building out next-generation wireless networks in especially developing parts of the world and U.S. allies. Are we going to see the Mate 10 in the U.S.?
No.
Yeah.
It's not shipping in the U.S.
Right.
But, I mean, you can order it. Nowadays you can get your hands on anything. So you order it from, wherever it is available through Alibaba or whatever. You'll be able to get one. Go on eBay. Someone will have one.
You're going to get one, I assume.
Am I going to get a Mate 10, Mate X, whatever they're calling it? I don't know. I'll reach out to Huawei and see. But it is weird.
I'll get my magic band to sort of inform the CIA that you've got a Huawei
right, exactly.
device.
A lot of tech fans don't. They kind of give Huawei a pass for all of these crazy things that are going on. It's hard for me to want to recommend a Huawei device when there's so much going on internationally, where the U.S. and a lot of European countries are like, we have a lot of proof that you're trying to steal our trade secrets and trying to infiltrate us, so we're not going to allow you in. But a lot of people are like, it looks cool, though. I want it because it looks cool. I don't know.
And I have to say, I like the approach that they're taking where it's the same screen. It's not like you close it up and there's an exterior screen. You fold it over and it's the same screen, just split in half.
Yes.
I like that approach from Huawei. So
now, one thing about these devices that I am not sure how I feel about, I have to get it in my hand, is obviously if you're folding a display, you're not folding glass, right? Glass doesn't bend, which means, we're used to phones that have glass, like high-quality glass covering the screen. We're going back to plastic now. Plastic is what's going to bend, not glass. And in some of these shots, you can see the plastic creasing as you're doing the fold and unfold. And that just doesn't look great to me. Like, obviously they're not shipping yet, so they may still be working on this. But plastic is not as high quality as glass, and plastic scratches. So when you close the Galaxy Fold, you're protecting it from the elements. And when you fold the Mate 10 or the Mate X, whatever it is, you're just leaving your plastic screen to the elements.
is it the 10 or the X?
I don't know. I didn't watch their introduction.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be surprised if it's the 10 because Huawei likes to copy Apple quite a bit. So, yeah.
All right. So those are the two new foldable phones that were just unveiled this past week.
No, so how do you feel, though? Do you want a foldable phone? And do you want to? What do you
won
think?
Me
Apple
over a little bit. You've
Okay.
won me over a little bit with just the notion of being able to carry both a phone and a tablet in your pocket.
How do you think Apple should respond?
How should they respond, or how will they
How
respond?
do you think they should respond?
Well, if they haven't been working on a foldable screen, then they should just come up with some other innovation that they should do. I don't necessarily think that there's. Well, maybe this could be a shot in the arm for the iPad. They could essentially take iOS and
A little foldable iPad.
do what you're saying. I mean, that the iPad has pretty much flattened out in terms of its sales and interest in a lot of markets around the country, and so maybe this could be something that could give new life to the iPad. But if they don't have the technology in-house, that's where Samsung has a lot of advantages, right?
Yeah. Apple, with the shift to more services, like the next event that's coming in about a month is going to be focused on TV and news services platforms. Do you think a heavy focus on services with less reliance on hardware could turn around to bite them?
It's not Apple's historic approach.
Right.
The whole idea has been a lot of great hardware innovation, and it's always felt like they've been just a little bit one step behind on some of the software, some of the apps in particular.
Yeah.
So, I think that they essentially need to focus on their strengths, and hardware has been the thing that has made them stand out, at least for me.
Yeah. So that's why, it's kind of a confusing question, right? So that's why I said, when I left, I was like, how does Apple respond? Usually I would feel like, for the most part, because Samsung also does some pretty interesting stuff every now and then, but usually for the most part, I feel like, okay, Apple is the leader and Samsung is playing catch up to what they're doing. And that feeling completely flipped after this latest event, where I was like, I don't know how Apple's going to respond to this, because Samsung is taking the lead in hardware innovation right now.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break here on Geared Up. When we come back, Microsoft's HoloLens 2 and the future of augmented reality. You're listening to Geared Up, and we'll be right back.
Okay. All right, chat. Let's see what you got. There's a lot of activity in the chat right now. A lot of activity. Wow, I'm scrolling. Okay, here we go. Can you do an entire podcast? Can you do an entire podcast with Andrew making fun of Todd?
Yes.
Can we?
I think we do that every week, don't we?
The flat display S10e is a better deal than the S10, S10 Plus. Yeah, I mean, because you're paying $750. So the thing with the S10e is instead of having the folded or the curved edges, it's just a flat edge. Not a huge deal, and you're saving yourself, that extra money, $150. I think the S10e is probably the best deal out there. Let's see. At first, I saw my first S10 at a T-Mobile store.
Well, that's similar to the iPhone thing, where the cheaper iPhone is basically just a different screen that you say doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Right. I agree. But Apple took more away from the 10R than I think Samsung took away from the S10e. Just wait on the Note 10. The S line always becomes a distant memory when the Note is released. So the Note will be probably 4 or 5 months from now. That'll be the Note 10, which will take features from the S10 and add stuff on top of that. Will GM sue Samsung for taking the S10 name? I don't know. Is there a car called that? I'm not a car guy.
It's a truck, isn't it?
Except for the Tesla. Mate 10 is a better design, but I think the inward fold is the future of foldable tech. I like the inward fold because I want to protect that display. I don't want to fold and leave the display out to the elements or feel like I have to have some sort of weird carrying case.
Yeah,
the
Chevy S10 is a truck.
Chevy S10, okay. Biggest complaint have been the pricing. When has a first-generation device been cheap? Never. Remember the first iPhone was like $700? $2,000 phones, no way, not happening. Anything else? The camera cutouts. Wait, where'd it go? El Jefe Reviews. Where you at? The camera cutouts for these new Galaxy phones are far better option than a notch. Far less intrusive when watching video. For me, using them both, having used them both to me, both of them disappear completely. Like, I watch a video, and the video is usually 16:9 anyway. It's not even touching the notch or the camera cutout. But both of them, the cutout and the notch, for me, when I use the device, disappears almost instantly. So I don't mind either one of them, quite honestly. If Apple comes out with a foldable iPad, goodbye Samsung and Huawei. LeBaron Burton says, I believe services are going to come back to bite Apple. That's where they're making that. That is the one area where the company is growing, though. Like, services is growing. It's in the billions right now. So I think they're looking at that as, hey, here's our way to continue getting, record quarters, but you can't forget about, no one wants to use a great service on a terrible hardware. So, all right.
Okay. You want to switch the backdrop?
Note 10 is coming this year. Simply Beth.
Oh.
Andrew, big baller. You're getting a Samsung Fold. I'm going to see if they're going to send me one. I'm not trying to spend that much money on a device.
Review unit.
If they say no, then I might have to, because that's going to be like one of the hottest, most talked about things, and I have to make videos on it. So there you go.
All right. Ready?
Ready.
All right. Welcome back to Geared Up. It's Todd Bishop.
Andrew Edwards here.
So amid all of these unveilings of phones and earbuds, Microsoft unveiled a new HoloLens.
New HoloLens, yes.
Did you try out the first HoloLens? Did you get a chance?
I used the first HoloLens actually at a GeekWire event. I think it was a GeekWire Bash, and was interesting because it was used by a real estate company. You put the HoloLens on, and they show you like different condos in a building. So you put the HoloLens on, you see the full building, and then you walk up to it, and then you like reach out and you pull out basically a little drawer, and that drawer is actually a unit inside of the building. And then you can look inside, expand it out, and like give yourself a little tour of the building.
So the HoloLens is augmented reality.
Yes.
As opposed to virtual reality, which puts you into a world that's entirely of that world. Augmented reality puts objects on the world, the real world around you. And so that's what the HoloLens is. Microsoft just this past week unveiled the new version, HoloLens 2. Big picture, it's more comfortable, little cheaper, $3,500 compared to $5,000.
Okay, a little cheaper, but still
it's pretty expensive.
That's more expensive than a Galaxy Fold.
Yes, absolutely. It also has support for things like Mozilla Firefox, so you can basically get out of the Microsoft ecosystem, better recognition of gestures. The thing with this is, though, it is still very much enterprise device. And when I say enterprise, I mean This is meant for factories and businesses and for real estate companies that want to show you their demo. At that price point, and based on the way Microsoft is targeting it, the first use of HoloLens is going to continue to be commercial applications. People in factory floors who need to identify objects. But at the HoloLens unveiling, Epic Games came out on stage.
Okay.
And they've actually made the Unreal Engine, which powers many games, work with HoloLens.
Okay.
So there is the potential, based on what developers do, that this could become a really interesting gaming device as well. But that is
interesting.
Clearly not Microsoft's focus. And this fits into a much bigger picture thing for Microsoft, where they've very much doubled down on their history in business applications, and that's their strength. They've got this huge Salesforce partner ecosystem that can pump this stuff out there. And it's interesting because they're just not competing directly with Magic Leap. Or
why not? Like, if you could plug this into like your Xbox One X and like have some sort of interesting gaming experience.
Well, now there are third-party headsets that use Windows holographic, if I'm remembering it correctly. So you can get these from other places, including VR headsets. So I think that's their approach, is to take this high-end first-party flagship device, keep it at a very high price point, tons of features, basically the kind of thing that you would get if you were a business, and then let the partners do.
That seems very weird for a business. Maybe I'm not thinking of the right applications, but what businesses do you work in, like in a factory where you're walking around with a HoloLens on? Like, what are you doing?
Okay, so good example. You're looking at, so say you're in an airplane cockpit.
Yep.
Or you're on a factory floor and you're looking at a piece of machinery. Essentially, the device could augment all sorts of things around you and say, okay, that's the button you need to push when the nuclear reactor starts to melt down and you need to save the world. Just to use one example.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's the idea. With the first generation HoloLens, one of my favorite examples was the plumber or the electrician who was basically in another location on annotating things on a tablet, and then somebody who didn't know what they were doing basically was able to see those annotations in the air, basically in front of them through the HoloLens. And so you start to think about that and you think, oh, like remote training or remote guidance. There's lots of different things that this could be used for in a business setting.
This is very interesting because one of the things with 5G, as 5G is approaching, one example they gave was a doctor can perform surgery from across the world. So you can be, laying in bed in Japan, and the best doctor for this surgery is in Ohio, and with such low latency and high speed and AR, the doctor can perform a surgery from Ohio while you sit or lay asleep in Japan. So I would assume this is kind of something that would be there as well.
And keep in mind who owns Skype.
Microsoft.
That's right. So a lot of their demos and their applications in HoloLens have been based on that kind of telepresence approach. Bottom line, the answer to your question, why are they doing more of the enterprise focus than the consumer focus? It's less competitive. They're zigging while others are zagging, and there's more money there.
Okay.
You're looking at businesses with giant budgets as opposed to trying to basically build a business from $350 purchases by individual consumers.
Sure. So Magic Leap is playing in that field.
It seems like it, yeah.
In a way. But I just remember when the Microsoft showed off HoloLens, like initially, it was like a big monster crashing through your window or through your wall, and you're trying to shoot it. And so when I heard HoloLens 2, I was like, oh, we're going to get more like cool gaming experiences. And that's not what they're optimizing for.
No, but I did forget to mention probably the most interesting upgrade in HoloLens 2. One of the biggest complaints about the first HoloLens was the field of view.
Yes.
And when I tried this, I remember thinking it was basically like looking through a portal into the world as opposed to being immersed into it. It's like basically holding maybe a 7 or 10 inch tablet a few inches away from your face, as opposed to being immersed in the world. This has essentially doubled the field of view.
Okay, that's good.
So that is another advantage of this device. To me, this is Microsoft keeping its foot in the game.
Microsoft doing Microsoft right here. So going back to Apple for a minute. So we were talking about Samsung kind of eclipsing Apple in the hardware space, at least as it pertains to the last event. we've heard rumblings of Apple working on AR. They've
For
talked
years.
about AR for years. They have AR
VR.
built in VR. Well, AR, like in the phones and in the tablets.
Yeah, AR kit
built
is
in.
there. Yeah, and
Yes. So the big rumor is they're working on some sort of glasses. They're working on some sort of car. All of these things that they're working on this new thing, but where is it? What do you, if Apple were to release something that they haven't released before this year or show it off this year, do you think it's going to be a foldable device, an AR, something with a car, or none of the above?
See, I look at what Oculus did, what Facebook did with the Oculus Go, and I say, what would have happened if Apple had done that? In other words, gotten away from being tethered to a machine and also gotten away from the idea of having to snap your smartphone into this thing to make it work. Fully self-contained, connected, virtual reality device. If that had been Apple instead with tie-ins to ARKit, the iPhone, I wonder if that could have been their iPhone moment, or if it could have been the iPhone moment for virtual reality. So that's what I start to think about when you say, what should Apple do?
Yeah.
What could they do next? It feels like Apple is the master of coming in and saying, look at all these interesting areas. How can we actually do this right?
Right.
And that's when they've succeeded most. If you look at the iPhone, the
Yeah.
Mac, to some extent
Apple
the iPad.
Watch.
Yeah, absolutely. The AirPods.
AirPods, right. Simple device that people love.
So take that pattern and apply it to AR and VR. What do you think? What would they do?
I don't know. I think I've never heard them talk about VR. Like Tim Cook is always talking about
just
AR.
AR.
He loves AR so much. So I'm thinking they're going to compete with the Magic Leaps of the world. There's not that many of them. Magic Leaps of the world, where they're going to make something like a HoloLens, but for the consumer, not for business, and focus on experiences, games, etc. But there haven't, like when you look at the rumor mill, the Apple rumor mill, you're not seeing anything like this where it's like, oh, here's, prototypes or anything like that. It seems like it's still far away. Now, to be fair, Samsung with the Galaxy Fold, that did not leak, which is rare in this day and age. Usually everything leaks. Everyone knew all the S10 specs and features of what it looked like prior to the announcement, and no one called the Galaxy Fold the name. No one called what it looked like, the feature set, etc. So they kept it on the wrap somehow. I'm just hoping. I like to see competition. I like to see competition in the tech space.
Do you think Apple could come out with some revolutionary new product in this day and age without it leaking?
Man, the things that Apple is able to maintain control over usually is the software. Yeah. So the software doesn't leak. I was actually the only one to ever leak a major software from Apple.
What was that?
It was me. iOS 1.1.4.
Nice.
It was the first one that allowed
1.1.4, of course.
No, it was like the first major feature update to the original iPhone.
Yeah.
And it was over a Christmas break, so their lawyers and stuff were not in the office, and I didn't get any takedown requests or anything, and everybody said that I made it up because I did a video showing all these new features, and I'm like, oh, he just faked that. That was a demo he made. And then Photoshop experts were coming, writing articles saying, oh, here's why this is fake. And then 3 weeks later, Steve Jobs takes the stage, and it's exactly what I showed.
Nice.
So all these people that were experts in their fields saying how I was wrong had egg on their faces.
Okay, so next up, you're going to be leaking the new Apple
I haven't leaked
AR
anything since then.
headset.
But no, I want to see, I don't know what they can do that wouldn't leak. I mean, everything seems to leak.
Yeah.
So,
except for Samsung. Maybe they need to get Samsung's lawyers.
right, or make something in-house.
they all know
I
each
don't
other.
know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, yeah.
All right. Wow, it has been a whirlwind week. I feel like I have a much better grasp of things
For now.
And that's all we got.
That's the show.
All right. Hey, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Just a reminder, if you're not already, be sure to subscribe to Andrew's YouTube channel to see our live behind-the-scenes videos. You can do that at youtube.com/gearlive. You can also subscribe to GeekWire's Facebook page. Do you subscribe to Facebook pages?
You follow.
You follow
You
Facebook.
follow or you hit like.
Facebook.com/GeekWire. And if you're not already, be sure to subscribe to Geared Up in your favorite podcast app. Just search Geared Up. That's 2 words, not one, in Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen.
If you like what we do, consider leaving us a rating and a review. It really helps other people find the show. Geared Up is a GeekWire podcast. You can see more from us at geekwire.com. Big shout out to Jim Valley for editing the show.
That's right. And thanks to Keith for
Keith
filling in on the live
Keith
stream.
over here.
All right. Hey, until next time, thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'm Todd Bishop.
I'm Andru